It begins as a whisper, a joke made at your expense, a shift in tone when you speak, a silence that follows your opinion, as if it carried no weight. Disrespect is rarely obvious at first. It hides in everyday moments, a subtle eye roll, an inside joke you're not part of, a smile that fades the moment you turn away. Most people are trained to overlook these things. We're told to not take things personally, to brush it off, to stay calm and composed. But Niccolò Machiavelli would see something else here. To him, these small slights are not random. They are tests. They are the earliest signs of a power struggle playing out beneath the surface. Someone is measuring you, evaluating your confidence, and deciding how far they can go. Disrespect is not merely a feeling, it is information. Machiavelli understood that human beings are driven by power, control, and perception. In his world, how people see you often matters more than who you truly are. When someone disrespects you, especially in public, they're not just insulting you, they are making a statement to others. This person is beneath me. I can cross a line with them, and there will be no consequence. That statement, if allowed to stand, can damage more than your pride. It can weaken your influence, lower your social status, and open the door for others to treat you the same way. So while society tells you to ignore the insult, Machiavelli would advise you to analyze it deeply. Who said it? Why now? In whose presence? What do they gain by this? Understanding the disrespect gives you insight into their motives and into your own position in the hierarchy around you. Often, disrespect doesn't come from enemies, but from those closest to you, friends, colleagues, family. And that's why it's so disorienting. We expect loyalty, we expect respect by default. So when a close one makes a sarcastic comment, interrupts us repeatedly, or makes us the butt of a joke, we freeze. We don't want to overreact. We question ourselves. Did I imagine that? But Machiavelli warns us against such hesitation, not because we should become paranoid, but because repeated disrespect from familiar faces is far more dangerous than a stranger's insult. Why? Because the closer they are to you, the more their behavior shapes how others see you. If they can dismiss you openly, so can others. Silence in such cases is interpreted as permission, but Machiavelli does not say to explode in anger or confront them emotionally. On the contrary, he advises discipline, not drama. Observe their pattern, test their intentions with small responses, remove privileges, change how much access they have to you. Watch how they react when you set subtle boundaries. Do they adjust or escalate? The goal is not to catch them in the act, but to gather evidence about their character, their loyalty, and their ambitions. Disrespect is rarely isolated. It grows when unchecked. Power, according to Machiavelli, does not always come from force. It comes from presence, from how others feel when you walk into a room. And if they feel they can laugh at you, talk over you, or ignore you, your presence has been compromised. Regaining it doesn't start with shouting louder. It starts with understanding exactly what kind of power you've lost and why. That requires deep awareness of yourself, of your social environment, and of the silent war of reputation that is always taking place around you. So when someone disrespects you, do not laugh it off if your instincts say something deeper is at play. Pay attention. Machiavelli would say that those who pay attention rule the game, and those who pretend not to notice are ruled by it. Every whisper, every glance, every joke carries weight in the world of power. Learn to read it. Learn to respond not with emotion, but with precision. The whisper of disrespect is not just an insult. It's your first invitation to either rise or fall. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct might be to react. Maybe you want to respond immediately. Raise your voice. Defend your name, prove a point. That's the natural urge. But if you act on that impulse, you're already playing their game. You've surrendered control. Machiavelli believed that the one who controls the timing controls the outcome. And in moments of disrespect, timing is everything. That pause between what they did and how you respond, that is where real power lives. Because while they were reckless, you remained composed. While they acted emotionally, you became strategic. Power is not in shouting the loudest. It's in knowing when to speak, when to wait, and when to strike. To pause is not to retreat. It is to evaluate. Machiavelli would say, don't just respond to disrespect, study it. Why now? Why in front of those particular people? What are they trying to signal? Is this a test? Are they trying to provoke a public reaction to undermine you? Or is it a show of dominance to others? Most importantly, what do they assume about you that makes them think they can get away with it? These questions reveal more than their words ever will. In the heat of the moment, people expose their inner motives. Disrespect is rarely random. It's often the first attempt to reset the power dynamic. And if you answer with emotion, you confirm their assumption. You're predictable, reactive, easy to manipulate. But when you pause, something unexpected happens. You shift the energy of the room. They wait for your reaction, but it doesn't come. That silence becomes uncomfortable. Your calmness becomes unnerving. Because silence, when used deliberately, is louder than words. It says, I saw what you did, and I'm choosing how and when to deal with it. That's power. Machiavelli valued fear, but not chaos. He respected those who knew how to use silence to provoke doubt. When your enemies aren't sure what you're thinking, they begin to fear what you're planning. That's when you begin to control not just the moment, but the narrative. This doesn't mean you remain silent forever. It means you wait until your emotions are no longer driving your decisions. You plan your next move from a place of clarity, and sometimes your next move is no move at all. Not yet. Let the disrespect hang in the air. Let others see it. Let them form their own judgments. When you respond too quickly, you take that moment away from them. But when you delay, your silence becomes a question. It invites observers to wonder, why didn't they react? What are they thinking? What will they do? That mystery creates tension, and tension builds influence. Machiavelli believed that power often lies not in confrontation, but in confusion. When people don't know how you'll respond, they hesitate next time. They begin to weigh the risk. They rethink their approach, and often, they correct their behavior without you lifting a finger. That's the kind of victory that lasts, not because you forced it, but because you allowed their own fear to do the work for you. In this way, you turn their disrespect into your advantage. It reveals who they are. It gives you data. It exposes their strategies. And it grants you the chance to prepare your own carefully, effectively, and on your own terms. In today's world, where everything is fast and loud, the ability to pause is rare, and therefore powerful. When you don't rush to defend yourself, you show confidence. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember, the first move is not always the strongest. The pause is. In that pause, you protect your energy. You gather your facts. You plan your position. You set the trap if needed. But most of all, you send a silent message. You don't control this moment, I do. And in that moment, you stop being a target and start becoming a player in the game of power. Machiavelli didn't teach to react. He taught to rule, with patience, precision, and the pause. Machiavelli did not believe in passive endurance. If someone disrespects you, it must not go unanswered forever. But the answer should never be impulsive. It should be precise, calculated, final. You do not respond to disrespect for emotional release. You respond to reset the balance of power, to reestablish your position, to send a message that cannot be misunderstood. But here is the difference between a weak man's revenge and a wise man's retaliation. The weak man strikes out of rage and ends up exposed. The wise man waits, watches, and then strikes in such a way that the other person never dares to test him again. That is the essence of Machiavellian thinking. Never act unless the outcome tilts power in your favor. The mistake most people make is retaliating too soon. They feel the sting of disrespect and rush to defend their pride. But in doing so, they play into their enemy's hands. They become predictable, loud, and emotionally unstable. In contrast, a Machiavellian mind allows time to pass, time to observe, time to study the target, time to find out what truly matters to them. Is it their status, their credibility, their alliances? Everyone has something they protect, and that's exactly where you aim when the time is right. Retaliation is not about humiliating someone in public. It's about exposing their vulnerability with surgical precision. And often, the most effective blow is the one they never see coming. Your strike doesn't have to be physical or verbal. It can be strategic, removing someone from access to your influence, shutting down their opportunities through silence and connections, undermining their credibility with a single, undeniable truth delivered at the right time, or simply rising in a way that makes their earlier insult look absurd. One of the greatest Machiavellian victories is when your success becomes their shame, when their insult is drowned out by your achievements, when their attempt to humiliate you turns into a reflection of their own insecurity. But remember, retaliation must not be emotional. It must serve a purpose. Every move you make must have a cost-benefit analysis. Ask yourself, what do I gain from this response? Will it elevate my position? Will it shift perception in my favor? Or will it just expose my emotions to those waiting to exploit them? Machiavelli would say, do not retaliate unless the retaliation strengthens your influence. Otherwise, let them live with the illusion that they got away with it. While you build the walls they won't be able to climb next time. Some situations require subtle strikes. Others require you to make an example, but never repeat your warnings. If you choose to act decisively. Half measures breed confusion. Harsh but fair responses create respect. People need to understand that crossing you has consequences, not because you're cruel, but because you are clear. You don't demand respect, you command it through consistency. And that consistency is rooted not in aggression, but in principle. You don't punish to punish. You correct to protect the boundaries of power. Machiavelli believed it is better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both, but this fear must not be based on terror. It should be based on respect for your discipline, your control, and your ability to respond with intelligence. You want people to think twice before disrespecting you, not because they fear a tantrum, but because they know you're always 5 steps ahead, because they know you won't forget. So remember this, when someone disrespects you, your first instinct may be to react, but your greatest power is to choose when, where, and how to strike. If you must retaliate, do it with purpose, do it with clarity, and most of all, do it in a way that makes them regret ever thinking you were weak enough to test. That is how you respond, not emotionally, but with dominance wrapped in discipline. That is how you win the game without shouting. That is how you lead, like Machiavelli. Disrespect, when handled correctly, becomes fuel, but the Machiavellian mind does not stop at defense. It moves toward construction, building silently, rising steadily, expanding influence behind closed doors. While others shout, you plan. While they try to provoke you, you withdraw into discipline. Because if there's one thing Machiavelli teaches clearly, it's that true power is never loud. The more you speak about what you will do, the less power you actually have. Those who act quietly, move smartly, and allow results to speak for them, those are the ones people learn to fear and respect. When someone disrespects you, don't chase the chance to correct them publicly. Instead, let your results destroy their narrative. Let your growth embarrass their assumptions. This is not about ego, it's about elevation. And the most dangerous man in the room is the one who continues to rise without ever announcing his climb. In a world addicted to attention, silence becomes mysterious. People begin to wonder what you're working on, what you're planning, what's next. This curiosity turns into tension, and that tension becomes control. Machiavelli understood that once people start calculating around you, once they hesitate to speak your name without thought, you've gained real influence. Let them think they won. Let them mistake your silence for weakness. What they won't see is the empire you're building while they laugh, the connections you're strengthening, the skills you're mastering, the image you're refining. While they celebrate your absence, you're preparing your presence. The moment you re-enter with power, silent, unshakable, and undeniable, their disrespect becomes meaningless. And more importantly, it becomes embarrassing for them. The greatest form of retaliation is personal growth so evident, so undeniable, that it silences every critic without a single word from your mouth. But while you build, do not leave your back exposed. Defense is as important as ambition. And defense doesn't mean confrontation, it means boundaries. Begin removing those who consistently challenge your value, not with arguments but with space. Start investing less time in those who take you for granted. Make your presence valuable by making it rare. When you step back, people begin to notice what they lost. When you stop showing up, they remember the strength you carried quietly. Absence has a power that presence often lacks. It teaches others what it feels like to lose access to someone who held real depth, real dignity, and real purpose. In the world of strategy, not everyone deserves a seat at your table, and not every act of disrespect needs a response. Some need removal, cut off access, limit conversation, redefine your circle. Machiavelli would not waste effort trying to convince the unworthy of his worth. He would use that effort to deepen the loyalty of those who see his value, and to create structures that cannot be easily shaken. Your defense is your discipline, and your distance. You must be willing to let go of the need to prove anything, and instead focus on becoming undeniable. That's how legacies are built. You don't need to post your plans. You don't need to announce every success. The people who disrespected you will hear about it anyway, and when they do, it will not come from you. It will come from the world around them. That's a strike they can't recover from, because they won't know where it came from or how to stop it. Machiavelli's lesson is timeless. Power is never in reaction. It's in preparation. The one who builds, while others boast, always ends up ahead. You don't fight for attention. You command it through consistency. You don't argue for respect. You become the person who can't be ignored. And when you do that, disrespect no longer touches you. It ricochets off the empire you built when no one was watching. So don't just respond to disrespect. Outgrow it, outbuild it, outsmart it. That's how you win, quietly, strategically. The final and most powerful Machiavellian principle in dealing with disrespect is this: don't just rise above it. Make them regret ever thinking they could undermine you. Not with threats, not with loud revenge, but through transformation, through presence, through becoming untouchable. The person who disrespected you should one day look at your life and realize they bet against the wrong soul, that their insult, their joke, their silent dig was not just misplaced, it was foolish. Machiavelli believed in reputation as a weapon, and the best way to destroy an enemy is to make their words irrelevant in the face of your undeniable reality. When you grow into someone greater than what they imagined, you rewrite the story without ever confronting the storyteller. But regret isn't created through noise. It's created through results. The more you succeed, the more your silence screams. The more you evolve, the more their small act of disrespect begins to look like jealousy. And the more disciplined you become, the more their emotional games start to look childish. You don't just move on, you elevate. You don't just forgive, you forget. Because they no longer exist on the level where you now operate. That is the art of cold dominance, not fueled by bitterness, but by clarity. You become so focused on your mission that no insult can reach your altitude. Machiavelli knew that perception is reality. So if people saw you get disrespected, let them also see what you became after. Let your legacy answer the disrespect. Let your actions, your presence, your influence speak on your behalf. And if they dare speak your name again, let it be with hesitation, because they now know you are not one to be trifled with. Not because you barked back, but because you built a kingdom from their doubt. And every time someone tries to test you again, they will feel the weight of that structure. They'll feel the gravity of your restraint, the sharpness of your boundaries, the power of your silence. You don't owe your response to every slight, but you owe yourself a version of life where you are never again underestimated. And that comes through choices, through control, through self-mastery. Disrespect is never really about the other person. It's a mirror. It shows you who's willing to test you, and how much you've trained yourself to respond like a ruler, not a reactor. That is what Machiavelli meant when he said it is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Because fear based on respect is more lasting than admiration based on charm. When you command presence, you do not need to demand anything. People adjust around you. Make them regret it, not through words, but through silence, not through rage, but through results, not by dragging them down, but by rising so far they can no longer touch you. Become the person they now have to introduce themselves to again, because you've grown so much. They don't recognize you anymore. In the end, it's not about revenge. It's about restoration. Restoration of your power, your self-worth, your dignity. It's about reminding yourself that what someone says or does to insult you is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your elevation. And when you rise, not with noise but with grace, the world notices, your enemies feel it, your silence speaks volumes, and your success, that becomes your legacy, a legacy that says, you tried to break me, but I built something greater from your disrespect. Machiavelli would not have wasted time arguing with those beneath him. He would have used that time to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast them. And that's exactly what you must do. Stay calm, stay focused, let them talk, let them laugh, and when the time is right, let your life speak. Loud enough that they hear it, quiet enough that they don't see it coming. That's how you win, with elegance, with strategy, with silence turned into success.